Hey everyone, welcome back once again to our CA Foundation Business Economics series where we are discussing business economic concepts in a most quick and practical manner. So without wasting much, let's get back to our video. So today we will be covering Unify International Capital Movements of International Trade chapter 9. Here is a quick overview. We have international trade in which there is international capital movements which have FDI and FPI. So we will be covering this in detail. What does it mean FDI and FPI? So here is the introduction. In Unit 1, our focus was on international trade in goods and services. Lately, we have observed enormous increase in international movement of capital. This phenomenon has received a great deal of attention not only from economists and policymakers but also from people in different walks of life including workers, organizations and members of the civil society. In this unit, we shall look into international capital movements, more precisely why do capital move across national boundaries and what are the consequences of such capital movements. We shall also briefly touch upon the FDI situation in India. So we have types of foreign capital. So the term foreign capital is comprehensive one and includes any inflow of capital into the home country from abroad, and therefore we need to be clear about the distinction between movement of capital and foreign investment. Foreign capital may flow into an economy in different ways. Some of the important components of foreign capital flow are: first, foreign aid or assistance, which may be bilateral or direct into government grants, multilateral aid from many governments who pools funds with international organizations like the World Bank. Sometimes World Bank also gives some grants. Tied aid with strict mandate regarding the use of money, or untied aid where there are no such stipulations. Foreign grants, which are voluntary transfer of resources by governments, institutions, agencies or organizations. Borrowings, which may take different forms such as direct intergovernment loans, loans from international institutions, that is World Bank, IMF, ADF, soft loans, for example from affiliates of World Bank such as IDA, external commercial borrowings and trade credit facilities. Third, deposit from non-resident Indians, NRI. And fourth, investments in the form of: first, foreign portfolio investment, FPI, in bonds, stocks and securities, and foreign direct investment, FDI, in industrial, commercial and similar other enterprise. A detailed discussion about all types of capital movements is beyond the scope of this unit, and therefore we shall concentrate only on foreign investments. Foreign direct investments, FDI. Foreign direct investments, according to IMF manual on balance of payments, is all investments involving a long-term relationship and reflecting a lasting interest and control of a resident entity in one economy, in an enterprise resident in an economy other than of the direct investor. This typically occurs through acquisition of more than 10% of share of the target asset. Direct investment comprises not only the initial transaction establishing the relationship between the investor and the enterprise, but also all subsequent transactions between them and among affiliate enterprises, both incorporated and unincorporated. According to the IMF and OECD definitions, the acquisition of at least 10% of the ordinary share or voting power in a public or private enterprise by non-resident investors make it eligible to be categorized as foreign direct investment. India also follows the same pattern of classification. FDI has three components: equity capital, reinvested earnings, and other direct capital in the form of intra-company loans between direct investors, that is parent enterprise and affiliate enterprise. Foreign direct investors may be individuals, incorporate or unincorporated, private or public enterprises, associate groups of individuals or enterprises, government or government agencies, estates, trusts, or other organizations or any combination of the above mentioned entities. The main form of direct investments are the opening of the overseas companies, including the establishment of subsidiaries or branches, creation of joint ventures on a contract basis, joint development of natural resources, and purchase or annexion of companies in a country receiving foreign capital. Direct investments are real investment in factories, assets, land, inventories, etc., and involve foreign ownership of production facilities. The investor retains control over the use of the invested capital and also seeks the power to exercise control over decision making to the extent of its equity participation. The lasting interest implies the existence of a long term relationship between the direct investor and the enterprise and a significant degree of influence by the investor on the management of the enterprise. Means कंट्रोल लेने के बाद इन्वेस्ट करने के बाद वो कंट्रोल भी करता है, कुछ डिसीजन भी लेता है अगर अगर स्टेक ज़्यादा रहे तो से एग्जांपल एंटिटी में 51% स्टेक लिया है तो इनडायरेक्टली कंट्रोल भी कर रहा है डिसीजंस ऑफ द एंटरप्राइजेस. Based on the nature of foreign investment, FDI may be categorized as horizontal, vertical or conglomerate. तो हर एक का डिफिनेशन देखेंगे. A horizontal direct investment is said to take place when the investor establishes the same type of business operation in a foreign country as it operates in a home country. For example, a cell phone service provider based in the US, that is Apple पकड़ो, Apple मूविंग टू इंडिया टू प्रोवाइड द सेम सर्विस, यानी उसने एक नया फैक्ट्री डाला इंडिया में, तो ये डायरेक्ट इन्वेस्टमेंट है. सेकेंड, अ वर्टिकल इन्वेस्टमेंट इज अंडर विच द इन्वेस्टर एस्टेब्लिशेस और एक्वायर्स अ बिजनेस एक्टिविटी इन अ फॉरेन कंट्री विच इज डिफरेंट फ्रॉम इट्स इन्वेस्टर्स मेन बिजनेस एक्टिविटी, येट in some way supplement it to its major activity. For example, a automobile manufacturing company may acquire interest in a foreign company that supplies parts or raw material required for the company. और one more example could be एप्पल ही कोई एक एंटिटी में इन्वेस्ट कर रहा है इंडिया में, जो कुड भी आईफोन के केसेस बना रहे हैं, कुड भी आईफोन केसेस या चार्जर बना रहा है एग्जाम्पल. थर्ड है a conglomerate type of foreign direct investment is one where the investor makes a foreign investment in a business that is unrelated to its existing business activity in its home country. This is often in the form of joint venture with a foreign firm already operating in the industry, as the investor has no previous experience. Yet another category of investment is two-way direct foreign investments, which are reciprocal investments between countries. This investment occurs when some industries are more advanced in one nation. For example, the computer industry in the US, while other industries are more efficient in other nations, such as automobile industry in Japan. तो दोनों इन्वेस्ट करते हैं एक दूसरे का कंट्रीज में. थर्ड वाला का एग्जांपल कुड भी एप्पल ने से रियल एस्टेट इंडस्ट्री में यहाँ पे जॉइंट वेंचर बनाया है अदानी के साथ. रियल एस्टेट इन्वेस्टमेंट विथ अदानी. ये तो सिर्फ ये हाइपोथेटिकल एग्जांपल है, ये एक्चुअल न्यूज़ से कुछ रिलेवेंस नहीं है, ये बस आपको समझाने के लिए बोला है. तीन केस बताया, एप्पल ने नया उसका एंटिटी डाला है हॉरिजॉन्टल, वर्टिकल में कुछ तो वर्टिकल जो भी सप्लाई चेन है या फिर जो मैन्युफैक्चरिंग एक्टिविटी है उसके रिलेटेड जो भी है कुछ पार्ट है उसमें इन्वेस्ट किया है इन अनदर कंट्री. और थर्ड है कम्प्लीटली अनरिलेटेड बिजनेस, कुड बी रियल इस्टेट या फिर ऑटोमोबाइल, कुड बी एप्पल इज लॉन्चिंग एप्पल कार फ्यून. सो उसका मेन जो कोर बिजनेस है मोबाइल फोन्स इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स उससे कुछ अलग है, और कुड बी डूइंग सम जॉइंट वेंचर विद अदानी फॉर द रियल इस्टेट सेक्टर. सो ये है तीन एग्जाम्पल्स. Then we have foreign portfolio investments, FPI. Foreign portfolio investment is the flow of what economists call financial capital rather than real capital and does not involve ownership or control on the part of investor. Examples of foreign portfolio investment FPI are the deposits of fund in an Indian or a British bank by an Italian company, the purchase of bond, a certificate of indebtedness of a Swiss company or the Swiss government, बाय सिटीजन और कंपनी बेस्ड इन फ्रांस, मतलब कोई अलग कंट्री को इन्वेस्ट कर रहा है, कोई फंड्स डिपॉजिट कर रहा है. अनलाइक एफडीआई, पोर्टफोलियो कैपिटल इन जनरल मूव्स टू इन्वेस्टमेंट्स इन फाइनेंशियल स्टॉक्स मतलब शेयर्स, bonds, and other financial instruments, and is affected largely by individuals and institutions through the mechanism of capital market. मोस्टली कैपिटल मार्केट यानी स्टॉक मार्केट के थ्रू ही रूल होता है स्टॉक मार्केट. एग्जाम्पल कुड भी, आपने यहाँ से बैठ के एप्पल कंपनी की शेयर लिए स्पेसिफिक परसेंट की अकॉर्डिंग, तो आपको आप यू विल बी इन अंडर द कैटेगरी ऑफ फॉरेन पोर्टफोलियो इन्वेस्टमेंट. These flow of financial capital have their immediate effect on balance of payment or exchange rather than on production or income generation. Foreign portfolio investment (FPI) is not concerned with either manufacturing of goods or with provision of service. Such investors also do not have any intention of exercising voting power or controlling or managing the affairs of the company in whose securities they invest. The sole intention of a foreign portfolio investor is to earn a remuneration return through investment in foreign securities and is primarily concerned about the safety of their capital, the likelihood of appreciation in its value, and the return generated. Logically, portfolio capital moves to a recipient country when which has revealed its potential for higher return and probability. Following international standard, portfolio investments are characterized by lower stake in companies with their total stake in a firm below 10%. नॉर्मली 10% से कम इन्वेस्ट होता है एफपीआई में. होप सो आपको दिख रहा हो. It is also noteworthy that unlike the FDIs, these investments are typically of short-term natures and therefore are not intended to enhance the productive capacity of a economy by creation of capital class. Like FPI वाला इन्वेस्टमेंट ज़्यादा टर्म तक नहीं रहता है. FDI is for long term, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, 100 years, could be. Portfolio investors will evaluate on a separate basis the prospect of each independent unit in which they might invest and may often shift their capital with change in their prospects. Therefore, portfolio investments are to a large extent expected to be speculative. Once investor confidence is shaken, such capital has a tendency to speedily shift from one country to another. आप देखेंगे कि नॉर्मली दिसंबर के दौरान इंडिया से एफपीओ का इन्वेस्टमेंट विड्रॉ होता है, यानी वो शिफ्ट करते हैं इंडिया टू यूएस. कब होता है? दिसंबर के दौरान. आप डेटा चेक कर लो, जो भी आपका इन्वेस्टमेंट का डेटा है, स्टॉक का डेटा है, आपको दिखेगा. जो इनफ्लो यानी पैसा आ रहा है, तो इनफ्लो नहीं होता है, आउटफ्लो होता है. इसके रीज़न क्या है, आपने थोड़ा रिसर्च करके कमेंट डाउन करना. सच कैपिटल हैव टेंडेंसी टू शिफ्ट फ्रॉम वन कंट्री टू अनदर, ऑकेजनली क्रिएटिंग अ फाइनेंशियल क्राइसिस फॉर द होस्ट कंट्री. मतलब यहाँ पे इंडिया बता रहा हूँ मैं, इंडिया से अदर कंट्रीज में हो रहा है. अब एक छोटा सा कंपैरिजन है, फोप्सो आपको दिख रहा होगा. तो फॉरेन डायरेक्ट इन्वेस्टमेंट एफडीआई वर्सेस फॉरेन पोर्टफोलियो इन्वेस्टमेंट. तो एफडीआई वर्सेस एफपीआई. तो ये इन्वेस्टमेंट इन्वॉल्व्स क्रिएशन ऑफ फिजिकल एसेट. यहाँ पे ओनली फाइनेंशियल एसेट होता है एफपीआई में. हैज़ अ लॉन्ग टर्म इंटरेस्ट एंड देयरफॉर रिमेन्स इन्वेस्टेड फॉर लॉन्ग. ये एफपीआई होता है शॉर्ट टर्म इंटरेस्ट एंड रिमेन इन्वेस्टेड फॉर शॉर्टर पीरियड्स. और एफडीआई इज रियली डिफिकल्ट टू विड्रॉ, जल्दी विड्रॉ नहीं कर पाते. वही एफपीआई इट इज ईजियर टू विड्रॉ. एंड एफडीआई आर नॉट इंक्लाइंड टू बी स्पेकुलेटिव, और एफपीआई इज स्पेकुलेटिव इन नेचर. फिर और आता है इट्स ऑफन अकम्पनीड बाय टेक्नोलॉजी ट्रांसफ़र. कुछ टेक ट्रांसफ़र हो रहा है, कुछ इन्वेस्टमेंट हो रहा है, जैसे एप्पल का कुछ नया टेक्नोलॉजी आया है, उसका प्लांट वो इंडिया में डाल रहा है. वही एफपीआई में ऐसा कुछ होता नहीं है, नॉट अकम्पनीड बाय टेक्नोलॉजी ट्रांसफ़र. फिर आता है डायरेक्ट इम्पैक्ट ऑन एम्प्लॉयमेंट ऑफ लेबर एंड वेजेस. एम्प्लॉयमेंट जनरेशन होता है एफडीआई के अंदर, एम्प्लॉयमेंट. वही एफपीआई में दो डायरेक्ट इम्पैक्ट ऑन एम्प्लॉयमेंट ऑफ लेबर. या फिर एंडरिंग इंटरेस्ट इन मैनेजमेंट कंट्रोल. यहाँ पे कंट्रोलिंग स्टेक लेते हैं, जो एंटिटी बनाया है जहाँ पे इन्वेस्ट किया है वहाँ पे मैनेजमेंट डिसीजंस में इसको कंट्रोल करते हैं, इंटरेस्ट रखते हैं. वही एफपीआई में ऐसा कुछ नहीं होता है. और लास्ट है सिक्योरिटीज आर हेल्ड विथ सिग्निफिकेंस डिग्री ऑफ इन्फ्लुएंस बाय द इन्वेस्टर ऑन द मैनेजमेंट ऑफ द एंटरप्राइज. वही FPI में securities are held purely as a financial investment and has no significant degree of influence on the management of the enterprise. फिर आता है रीजन फॉर फॉरेन डायरेक्ट इन्वेस्टमेंट, वाई, क्यों कर रहे हैं. अरे कुछ तो मेरा स्लेट को इशू हुआ है, क्वेश्चन मार्क नहीं आ रहा है. हाँ ठीक है. वाई, एज यू नो, economic prosperity and the relative abundance of capital are necessary prerequisites for export of capital to another countries. Many economies and organizations have accumulation of huge mass reserve of capital seeking प्रॉफिटेबल यूज़, यानी बहुत सारे कैपिटल उनके पास पड़ा है जिसका कुछ प्रॉफिटेबल यूज़ उनका करना चाहते हैं. द प्राइमरी एम फॉर इकोनॉमिक एजेंट्स बीइंग मैक्सिमाइजेशन ऑफ their economic interest, the opportunity to generate profits available in other countries often entices such entities to make investment in other countries. FDI का मेजर मतलब ये है कि प्रॉफिट होना चाहिए, जो भी सरप्लस पड़ा है उसको इन्वेस्ट करके कुछ रेवेन्यू जनरेशन करने का ये रहता है, इंटेंशन रहता है. द चीफ मोटिव फॉर शिफ्टिंग ऑफ कैपिटल, चीफ मेन between different regions or different industries, expectation of higher rate of return, मतलब जो भी प्रॉफिट है नॉर्मली इंडस्ट्री में से 10% होगा, तो बाई शिफ्टिंग कंट्रीज दे आर एक्सपेक्टिंग मोर देन दैट, 11%, 15%, एनी हाउ. देन व्हाट इज पॉसिबल इन होम कंट्रीज. ये होम कंट्री का है, ये फॉरेन कंट्री का है. आई एम सॉरी आपको दिख नहीं रहा होगा, ये निचले तो फिर से शॉर्ट में बताता हूँ. से आपको होम कंट्री में आपको कोई एसेट पर इन्वेस्ट करके आपको 10% रिटर्न मिल रहा है, वही आप चाहेंगे कि जब फॉरेन कंट्री में जब आप इन्वेस्ट करें आपको से 12% प्रॉफिट मिले, 15% प्रॉफिट मिले, सो ऑन. So the chief motive for shifting of capital between different countries or different industries is the expectation of higher rate of return than what is possible in home country. जो home country में मिल रहा है उससे ज़्यादा expectation है. Investment in a host country may be considered as profitable by foreign firms because of some firm specific knowledge or assets such as superior management skill or important patent. यानी उसके पास कुछ ऐसा knowledge है, कुछ advantage है जिसके कारण chances are high of being profitable, that enables the foreign firm to gainfully outperform the host country's domestic firms. जिसके कारण जो रेगुलर फर्म है, लोकल कंट्रीज फर्म है, उससे ज़्यादा आउट परफॉर्म करता है, यानी ज़्यादा प्रॉफिट कमाता है, ज़्यादा बेहतर परफॉर्म कर पाता है. देर आर मेनी अदर रीजन्स एज लिस्टेड बिलो फॉर इंटरनेशनल कैपिटल मूवमेंट विच हैव फाउंड एडुकेट एम्पेरिकल सपोर्ट. इन्वेस्टमेंट्स मूव अक्रॉस बॉर्डर्स ऑन अकाउंट ऑफ, कुछ रीजन देखेंगे हम. The increasing interdependence of national economies and the consequent trade relations and international industry cooperation established among them, internalization of production and investment of transactional cooperation in their subsidiaries and affiliates, desire to reap economies of large-scale operation arising from the technology growth, lack of feasibility of licensing agreement with foreign producers in view of rapid rate of technology innovations. फिर है necessity to retain direct control of production knowledge or managerial skill usually found in monopolistic or oligopolistic markets that could easily and profitably be utilized by corporations. फिर है desire to procure a promising foreign firm to avoid future competition and possible loss of export market. ये भी interesting है. Risk diversification so that recessions or downturn may be experienced with reduced severity. सो डाइवर्सिफाई कर रहे हैं मल्टीपल जगह पे, तो उससे आपके 3 कंट्रीज में आपकी यूनिट है एक्स वाई जेड, तो कुछ ही कारण से अगर एक्स यूनिट आपका परफॉर्म नहीं कर पाता है तो यू कुड ऑल्सो रिलाई ऑन वाई एंड जेड, तो आपका जो लॉस है ओवरऑल वो कम होगा. वही अगर आपका 100% प्रोडक्शन एक ही यूनिट पे एक्स और कुछ कारणवश शिप बंद होता है तो आपका फर्म या आपका कंपनी पूरा लॉस में जाएगा. इनकेस आपके पास 3 यूनिट है अलग अलग कंट्रीज में तो आप बच सकते हो. देन shared common language or common boundaries and possible saving in time and transportation cost because of geographical proximity. फिर आता है necessity to retain complete control over its trade patents and ensure consistent quality and service or for creating monopolies in global context. फिर आता है promoting optimal utilization of physical, human, financial and other resources. Then desire to capture large and rapidly growth high potential emerging markets with substantially high and growing population. Then ease of penetration into the markets of those countries that have established import restrictions such as blanket bans, high custom duties or non-tariff barriers which make it difficult for the foreign firms to sell in its own host country market by getting benefits the tariff war. And then lower environmental standards in the host countries, यहाँ पे से इंडिया में environmental standards थोड़ी easier है and the consequently relative saving in cost, compliance कम है तो उसका cost saving भी होता है और भी है. Then we have stable political environment and political okay कौन सी पार्टी पॉलिटिकल इन एग्जिस्टेंस है, इन पावर है, उनके डिसीजंस कैसे है, वो स्टेबल है, सब है, वो सब देखा जाता है. एंड ओवरऑल फेवरेबल इन्वेस्टमेंट क्लाइमेट इन द होस्ट कंट्री यानी मतलब जहाँ पे इन्वेस्ट कर रहे हो. High degree of openness to foreign capital exhibited by the recipient country and the prevalence of preferential investment system such as SEZ Special Economic Zone to encourage direct foreign investment. कुछ स्पेसिफिक जोन या कुछ ये बना है से SEZ है इंडिया में जहाँ पे आप आके इन्वेस्ट करते हो तो आपको कुछ जगह पे आपको थोड़ा इजीली आपको लाइसेंसिंग होता है, थोड़ा ज़्यादा प्रायोरिटी दिया जाता है, प्रेफरेंशियल ट्रीटमेंट दिया जाता है बहुत सारी चीज़ों में. प्रेफरेंस the strategy to obtain control of strategic raw material or resource so as to ensure their uninterrupted supply at the lowest possible price, usually in the form of vertical integration. वर्टिकल यानी जो हमारा रॉ मटेरियल से लेके फिनिश गुड का चेन है उसमें कैसे हम FG से लेके ऊपर वाला पार्ट जो है वर्टिकली कोई भी एक पार्ट पे हम फोकस करके उसका इन्वेस्टमेंट कर रहे हैं. जैसा मैंने एप्पल का बताया, जैसे चार्जर हो सकता है या फिर ऑटोमोबाइल कंपनी का कोई पार्ट का मैन्युफैक्चरिंग का आप इन्वेस्टमेंट कर रहे हो. फिर desire to secure access to minerals or raw material deposits located elsewhere and earn profit through processing them and to finished form. Example FDI and petroleum. आप से UAE उधर इन्वेस्ट कर रहे हो ताकि आपको पेट्रोलियम का एक्सेस मिल जाए और आप ऑटोमोबाइल इंडस्ट्री में हो तो आप वही पेट्रोलियम को अलग अलग फॉर्म्स में खुद यूज़ कर सकते हो और अच्छा खासा प्रॉफिट बना सकते हो. द एग्जिस्टेंस ऑफ लो रिलेटिव वेजेस इन द होस्ट कंट्री इंडिया इज अ लाइव एग्जाम्पल जहाँ पे वेज रेट कम है बिकॉज ऑफ रिलेटिव लेबर अबंडेंस coupled with shortage and high cost of labor in capital exporting countries, especially when the production process is labor intensive. यहाँ पे लेबर कंपेरेटिवली लोअर इस पे मिलता है तो कंपनी चाहेंगे कि यहाँ पे उनका प्लान सेटअप करे या यहाँ से लेबर सोर्स करे ताकि उनका ओवरऑल कॉस्ट कम हो और प्रॉफिट मार्जिन बढ़ जाए. Then lower level of economic efficiency in host countries and identifiable gaps in development. Then tax differentials and tax policies of the host countries which support foreign direct investment. However, a lower tax burden cannot compensate for a generally fragile and unattractive FDI environment. A navy table of defensive investments in order to preserve a firm's competitive position. High gross domestic product and high per capita income coupled with their high rate of growth. There are also other philanthropic objectives such as strengthening of socio-economic infrastructures, elevation of poverty and maintenance of ecological balance of the host country, and prevalence of high standard of social amenities and possibility of good life quality of life in the host country. एक छोटा टेबल है host country determinants for FDI, that is foreign direct investments. FDI. Economic determinants policy framework. Market seeking FDI. सो मार्केट साइज एंड पर कैपिटल इनकम देखते हैं, मार्केट ग्रोथ कैसा है, एक्सेस टू रीजनल एंड ग्लोबल मार्केट, ये सब चीज़ें डिटरमिनेंट्स यानी पॉइंट्स दिखते हैं डिसीजन लेने से पहले एफडीआई के. कंट्री स्पेसिफिक कंज्यूमर प्रेफरेंस, कंज्यूमर की लाइफस्टाइल कैसी है, उनके प्रेफरेंसेस कैसे है. स्ट्रक्चर ऑफ मार्केट, वही पॉलिसी फ्रेमवर्क देखता है कि आपका इकोनॉमिक पॉलिसी कैसा है, पॉलिटिकल सोशल स्टेबिलिटी कैसा है, रूल्स रिगार्डिंग एंट्री, नया कोई एंट्री बैरियर्स कैसे है, ऑपरेशंस के लिए रूल्स कैसे है, स्टैंडर्ड ऑफ ट्रीटमेंट ऑफ फॉरेन एफिलिएट्स, फॉरेनर्स को कैसा ट्रीट किया जाता है. दिस इज फॉर फॉरेन बिजनेसमैन. रिसोर्स और असेट सीकिंग एफडीआई, तो रॉ मटेरियल का क्या सीन है, रॉ मटेरियल कैसा है, एबिलिटी कैसा है, क्वालिटी कैसा है, लो कॉस्ट अनस्किल्ड लेबर, एबिलिटी ऑफ स्किल्ड लेबर, टेक्नोलॉजी इनोवेशंस एंड अदर असेट्स, दैट ब्रांड नेम कैसा है, फिजिकल इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर कैसा है. पॉलिसी साइड देखेंगे, पॉलिसी और फंक्शनिंग एंड स्ट्रक्चर ऑफ मार्केट्स, कंपटीशन के बारे में लॉज कैसे है, मर्जर के बारे में कैसा है, इंटरनेशनल एग्रीमेंट्स ऑन एफडीआई कैसा है, प्राइवेशन पॉलिसी कैसी है, ट्रेड पॉलिसीज़ कैसे है, कोहेरेंस ऑफ एफडीआई एंड ट्रेड पॉलिसीज, टैक्स पॉलिसी कैसी है, ये सब चीज़ें माइन्यूटली डिसाइड देखते हैं, स्टडी करते हैं, डिसाइड करते हैं और तभी डिसीजन लेते हैं कि एफडीआई करना है, इन्वेस्ट करना है या नहीं. और भी पार्ट्स है. एफिशिएंसी एफडीआई, कॉस्ट ऑफ अबव फिजिकल एंड ह्यूमन रिसोर्स एंड एसेट्स इंक्लूडिंग एडजस्टमेंट और प्रोडक्टिविटी. प्रोडक्टिविटी कैसी है, लेबर अच्छा काम कर रहे हैं तो प्रोडक्टिविटी हाई है या लो है, प्रोडक्टिविटी ये कैलकुलेट होती है. अदर इनपुट कॉस्ट सच एज इंटरमीडिएट प्रोडक्ट्स, ट्रांसपोर्टेशन कॉस्ट कैसा है, पेट्रोल अगर सस्ता है तो फिर ट्रांसपोर्टेशन कॉस्ट कम आएगा तो ओवरऑल कॉस्ट कम रहेगा और प्रॉफिट ज़्यादा रहेगा. मेंबरशिप ऑफ कंट्री इन अ रीजनल इंटीग्रेशन एग्रीमेंट विच कुड बी conducive to forming regional corporate networks. Then we have business facilitation. Investment promotions including image building and investment generating activities and investment facilitation services. Investment incentives, that is hassle cost related to corruption and admin efficiencies. Social amenities, that is bilingual school, quality of life आफ्टर इन्वेस्टमेंट सर्विसेज. सो ये बहुत सारी चीज़ें, एक मेजर इन्वेस्टमेंट कंपनी है जो हमारे सिटी में इन्वेस्ट कर रहे थे एफडीआई. उसके पहले उन्होंने इस सब चीज़ों पर रिसर्च किया प्रॉपर, 2 दिन मैंने ग्राउंड वर्क हुआ, उसके बाद उन्होंने डिसाइड किया कि वो हमारे सिटी में आके इन्वेस्ट करेंगे. फैक्टर्स इन द होस्ट कंट्री discouraging inflow of foreign investments are infrastructure lacks, high rate of inflation, balance of payment deficits, poor literacy and lower labor skills, rigidity in the labor market, bureaucracy and corruption, unfavorable tax regime, cumbersome legal formalities and delays, difficulties in contract enforcement, land acquisition issue, small size of market and lack of potential for its growth, political instability, absence of well-defined property rights, exchange rate volatility, poor track record of investment, prevalence of non-tariff barriers, stringent regulations, lack of openness, language barriers, high rate of industrial dispute, lack of security to life and property, lack of facilities for immigrations and employment of foreign technicals and administrative personals, double taxation means टैक्स के ऊपर भी टैक्स लग रहा है, lack of a general spirit of friendliness towards foreign investors. ये बहुत सारे फैक्टर्स है जो डिस्करेज करता है इन्वेस्टमेंट्स को. फिर है मोड्स ऑफ फॉरेन डायरेक्ट इन्वेस्टमेंट्स, एफडीआई कैसा कैसा मोड है. फॉरेन डायरेक्ट इन्वेस्टमेंट्स कैन बी डन in a variety of ways, such as opening of a subsidiary or associate company in a foreign countries. So Apple USA, उसने क्या किया, एप्पल इंडिया खोल दिया, एक नया एंटिटी फॉर्म किया तो उसमें इन्वेस्टमेंट किया है. फिर उसमें इक्विटी इंजेक्शन इनटू ओवरसीज कंपनी, यानी इक्विटी खरीद लेना. Acquiring a controlling interest in its existing foreign company, ऑलरेडी कंपनी है, एग्जिस्टिंग फॉरेन कंपनी है, उसमें कंट्रोलिंग स्टेक यानी 51% से ज़्यादा, 51% ऑफ टोटल शेयर्स, कंट्रोलिंग शेयर्स बोल सकते हैं, कंट्रोलिंग शेयर्स. मर्जर्स एंड एक्विजिशंस, मर्जर यानी दो कंपनी एक साथ मिल गए तो मर्ज होता है, और एक्विजिशन यानी दूसरी कंपनी को खरीद लिया है. जॉइंट वेंचर विद अ फॉरेन कंपनी, से एप्पल ने अदानी के साथ इन्वेस्ट जॉइंट वेंचर किया है, या फिर एप्पल ने रिलायंस के साथ जॉइंट वेंचर किया है. देन ग्रीनफील्ड इन्वेस्टमेंट, दैट इज एस्टेब्लिशमेंट ऑफ अ न्यू ओवरसीज एफिलिएट फॉर फ्रेशली स्टार्टिंग प्रोडक्शन बाय अ पेरेंट कंपनी. ग्रीनफील्ड है, ब्राउनफील्ड, ग्रीनफील्ड मतलब फ्रेश एकदम न्यू. ब्राउनफील्ड इन्वेस्टमेंट्स, दैट इज अ फॉर्म ऑफ एफडीआई which makes use of existing infrastructure by merging, acquiring or leasing instead of developing a new one. ग्रीन बोले तो न्यू, ब्राउन बोले तो एग्जिस्टिंग को ही डेवलप कर रहे, खरीद रहे. फॉर एग्जाम्पल इन इंडिया 100% एफडीआई अंडर ऑटोमेटिक रूट इज अलाउड इन ब्राउनफील्ड एयरपोर्ट प्रोजेक्ट्स, यानी एग्जिस्टिंग एयरपोर्ट को आप इन्वेस्ट करो, बिल्ड करो, ऑपरेट करो. देन वी हैव बेनिफिट्स ऑफ फॉरेन डायरेक्ट इन्वेस्टमेंट्स. क्या फ़ायदा. The benefits from and concerns about FDIs are widely discussed and well documented. While recognizing the fact that there are also benefits and costs to the home country from capital outflow, in this unit we shall focus only on host country effects on FDI with particular attention to the developing countries like India. Following are the benefits ascribed to foreign investments. First, entry of foreign enterprises usually fosters competition and generates a competitive environment in the host country. The domestic enterprises are compelled to compete with the foreign enterprise operating in the domestic market. They result in positive outcomes in the form of cost reducing and quality improving innovations, higher efficiency, and increasing variety of better products and services at lower prices, ensuring wider choice and welfare for consumers. Second, international capital allows countries to finance more investment than can be supported by domestic savings. The provision of increasing capital to work with labor and other resources available in the host country, say India for example, host टेम्पररी इंडिया पकड़ो और जो ग्लोबल जो इन्वेस्टिंग कंट्री है वो से यूएस पकड़ो कैन एनहांस द टोटल आउटपुट और जीडीपी एज वेल एज आउटपुट per unit of input flowing from the factors of production. From the perspective of emerging and developing countries, FDI can accelerate growth and foster economic development by providing the much needed capital, technological know how, management skills, marketing methods, and critical human capital skills in the form of managers and technicians. The split over effect of the new technologies usually spread beyond the foreign corporation. In addition, the new technology can clearly enhance the recipient country's production possibilities. यानी एक से XYZ एंटिटी में ये क्या है तो उसके साथ साथ उसके रिलेटेड जो भी सप्लायर्स है बाकी कंपनी भी ग्रो कर पाती है टेक्नोलॉजी को अडॉप्ट करती है और ओवरऑल पूरे इकोनॉमी को ग्रो होता है फायदा होता है. Then we have fourth, competition for FDI among national governments also has helped to promote political and structural reforms important to attract foreign investors, including legal system and macroeconomic policies. Fifth, since FDI involves setting up a production base, example in terms of factory, power plants, etc., it generates direct employment in the recipient's country. Subsequent FDIs as well as domestic investments propelled in the downstream and upstream projects that come up in multitude of other services generate multiplier effect. Multiplier एक के कारण दो, दो के कारण चार, चार के कारण इसको बोलते हैं multiplier effect on employment and income and GDP. FDI not only creates direct employment opportunities but also through backward and forward linkages generate indirect employment opportunities. This impact is particularly important if the recipient country is a developing country with an excess supply of labor caused by population pressure. Classic example is our country. Foreign direct investment also promotes relatively a higher wage for skilled jobs. More indirect employment will be generated to people in the lower end service sectors occupations, thereby catering to an extent even to the less educated and unskilled person engaged in those units. हर किसी का कुछ ना कुछ फायदा होता है. Foreign corporations provide better access to foreign markets. Unlike portfolio investments, FDI generates entitles people-to-people relations and usually considered as a promoter for bilateral and international relations. Greater openness to foreign capital leads to higher national dependence on international investors, making the cost of discourse higher. There is also greater possibility for the promotion of ancillary units, resulting in job creation and skill development for workers. Foreign enterprise possessing marketing information with the global network of marketing are in a unique position to utilize their strength to promote the export of developing countries. जिनके पास स्किल सेट है वो एक अलग ही पोजीशन में रहते हैं और वो प्रमोट कर सकते हैं. If the foreign capital produces good with export potential, the host country is in position to secure scarce foreign exchange needed to import capital, equipments, or material to assist the country's development plans or to ease its external debt servicing. If the host country is in position to implement effective tax measures, the foreign investment projects also would act as a source of new tax revenue which can be used for developing projects. It is likely that foreign investments enter into industries in which economies of scale can be realized so that consumer prices may be reduced. Domestic firms might not always be able to generate the necessary capital to achieve the cost of reduction associated with large scale production. Increased competition resulting from the flow of foreign direct investment facilitates weakening of the market power of domestic monopolies, resulting in a possible increase in output and fall in prices. Since FDI has a distinct advantage over the external borrowings, it is considered to have a favorable impact on the host country's balance of payment position and better work culture and higher productivity standards are brought in by foreign firms may possibly induce productivity related awareness and may also contribute to overall human resource development. यानी बेटर प्रैक्टिसेस बेटर एम्प्लॉयमेंट स्टाइल से ओवरऑल प्रोडक्टिविटी बढ़ती है और ओवरऑल कल्चर भी बिल्ड होता है. वी हैव पोटेंशियल प्रॉब्लम्स एसोसिएटेड विद द फॉरेन डायरेक्ट इन्वेस्टमेंट्स. क्या प्रॉब्लम्स है? In the above section, we have seen there are a widely variety of benefits may result from an inflow of FDI. These gains does not occur in all cases, nor do they occur in the same magnitude. Despite the argument in favor of FDI, many are highly critical of the impact of foreign capital, especially on developing economies. They argue that foreign entities are highly focused on profits and have an eye on exploiting the natural resource and almost always not genuinely interested in the development needs of the host countries. Foreign capital is pursued by the critic as an instrument of imperialism, perceptor, perpetrator of dependence, and source of inequality between and within the nations. Following are the general arguments put forth against the entry of foreign capital. कुछ arguments है. First, FDIs are likely to concentrate on capital incentive matters of production and services so that they need to hire only relatively fresh workers. Such technology is inappropriate for a labor abundant country as it does not support generation of jobs, which is crucial requirement to address the two fundamental areas of concern for the less developed countries, namely poverty and unemployment. The inherent tendency of FDI flows to move towards regions or states which are well endowed in terms of natural resources and availability of infrastructure has the potential to accentuate regional disparity. Foreign capital is also criticized for accentuating the already existing income inequalities in the host countries. In the context of developing countries, it is usually alleged that the inflow of foreign capital may cause the domestic government to slow down its effort to generate more domestic savings, especially when the tax mechanisms are difficult to implement. If the foreign corporations are able to secure incentive in the form of tax holidays or similar provisions, the host country, say India, loses its tax revenue. Often the foreign firms may partly finance their domestic investment by borrowing funds in the host country's capital market. This action can raise interest rates in the host country and lead to a decline in domestic investments through crowding out effect. Moreover, suppliers of funds in developing economies would prefer foreign firms due to pursued lower risk, and such shift of funds may divert capital away from investments which are crucial for the development of the country. इसका मतलब से जो फॉरेन कंपनी है वो लोकल बैंक लोकल फाइनेंसिंग इंस्टीट्यूशन से फाइनेंसिंग कराएंगे, उसके कारण जो लोकली लोगों के लिए जो फंड्स था वो फॉरेनर्स के तरफ जो फॉरेन फर्म की तरफ शिफ्ट हो गया, उसके कारण जो क्रुशियल एक्टिविटी के लिए फंड्स था वो कम हो जाएगा. ऐसा एक व्यू है. Then the expected benefit from easing of the balance of payment situation might remain unrealized or narrowed down due to the likely instability in the balance of payment and the exchange rate. Obviously, FDI brings in more foreign exchange, improves the balance of payment, and raises the value of host country's currency in the exchange market. However, when imported inputs needed to be obtained or when profits are repatriated, a strain is placed on the host country's balance of payment and the home currency, leading to its depreciation. Such instabilities jeopardize long-term economic planning. Foreign corporations also have a tendency to use its usual input suppliers, which can lead to increased imports. Also, large-scale repartition of profits can be stressful on exchange rates and balance of payment. I know थोड़ा टेक्निकल हो रहा है, बस पढ़ लो. Jobs that require expertise and entrepreneurial skills for creative decision making may generally be retained in the home country, and therefore the host country is left with routine management jobs that demand only lower level of skills and ability. मतलब जो मेन डिसीजन मेकिंग के जॉब्स है वो खुद के ही कंट्री में रखेंगे, और जो भी लेबर इंटेंसिव या रूटीन जॉब्स है वो हम जहाँ पे जो इन्वेस्टिंग कंट्री है वहाँ पे हम डिप्लॉय करेंगे लोगों को उस काम के लिए. The argument of possible human resource development and acquisition of new innovation skill through FDI may not be realized in reality. हायर मतलब से एप्पल का मेन रिसर्च सेंटर वो यूएस में रख रहे हैं, बाकी उनका प्रोडक्शन फैसिलिटीज़ वो इंडिया में एग्जाम्पल है. Higher profit orientation of foreign direct investors tends to promote a distorted pattern of production and investment such that the production could get concentrate on items of elite and popular consumption and on non-essential items. Then, foreign entities are usually accused of being anti-ethical as they are frequently resort to methods like aggressive advertising and anti-competitive practices which could induce market distortions. A large foreign firm with deep pockets, both paisa, may undercut the competitive local industry because of its various advantages such as technology possessed by it, may even drive out domestic firms from the industry, resulting in a serious problem of displacement of labor. The foreign firm may also exercise a high degree of market power and exist as monopolist with all the accompanying disadvantage of monopoly. The high growth of wages in foreign corporations can influence a similar escalation in the domestic corporation which are not able to recover their increase with growth of productivity. This results in decreasing competitiveness of domestic companies which may produce detrimental to the long-term interest of industrial development of the host countries. FDIs usually involve domestic companies offshoring or shifting jobs and operations abroad in pursuit of lower operating cost and consequent higher profits. This has deleterious effect on employment potential of home country. Then we have 11th, the continuance of lower label or environmental standard in host countries is highly appreciated by the profit seeking foreign enterprises. This is of greater concern because efforts to converge such standard often fail to receive support from interested parties. At times, there is potential national security considerations involved when a foreign firm functions in the territory of host country, especially when acute hostilities prevail. FDIs may have adverse impact on the host country's commodities terms of trade, defined as the price of a country's export divided by the price of its import. Means export divided by import. Import, export. This could occur if the investment go into production of export-oriented goods and the country is a large country in the scale of export. Thus, increased export drive down the price of export related to the price of import. Then we have FDI is also responsible for many ruthless exploitation of natural resource and the possible environmental damage. With substantial FDI in developing countries, there is strong possibility of emergence of a dual economy with a developed foreign sector and an underdeveloped domestic sector. Perhaps the most disturbing of the various charges levied against foreign direct investment is that a large foreign investment sector can exert excessive amount of power in a variety of ways so that there is potential loss of control by host countries over domestic policies and therefore the less developed economy host countries' sovereignty is put at risk. Mighty multinational firms are often criticized of corruption issues, unduly influencing policy making and evasion of corporate social responsibilities. No general assessment can be made regarding whether the benefits of FDI outweighs the cost. Each country's situation and each firm's investment must be examined in the light of various considerations, and a judgment about the desirability or otherwise of the investment should be arrived at. Many safeguard and performance requirements are put in place by developed and developing countries to improve the ratio of benefits to cost associated with foreign capital. A few examples are domestic content requirements on inputs, reservation of certain key sector to domestic firms, requirement of a minimum percent of local employees, ceiling on repatriation of profit, local sourcing requirement, and stipulation for full or partial export of output to earn foreign exchange. Foreign direct investments in India. Foreign direct investments (FDIs), in addition to being a key driver of economic growth, has been significant non-debt financial resource for India's economic development. Foreign corporations invest in India to benefit from the country's particular investment privileges such as tax breaks and comparatively lower salaries. This help India develop technological know-how and create jobs as well as other benefits. These investments have been coming into India because of the government's supportive policy framework, vibrant business climate, rising global competitiveness, and economic influence. The government has recently made numerous efforts, including easing FDI regulations in various industries, PSUs, oil refineries, telecom, and defense. India's FDI inflow reached record levels during 2020-21. The total FDI inflow stood at US dollars 81,973 million, a 10% increase over the previous financial year. According to the World Investment Report 2022, India was ranked 8th among the world's major FDI recipients in 2020, up from 9th in 2019. Information and technology, telecommunication, and automobiles were the major receiver of FDI in 2022, financial year 2022. With the help of significant transactions in the technology and healthcare sector, multinational companies (MNCs) have pursued strategic collaboration with top domestic businesses grouping, fueling an increase in cross-border M&M of 83% to US dollars 27 billion. Overseas direct investment by Indian companies. India is primarily a domestic demand driven economy with consumption and investment contributing to 70% of the economic activity. With an improvement in the economic scenario and the Indian economy recovering from the COVID 19 pandemic shock, India is relatively well placed than the rest of the world. Despite major tailwinds that continue to pose risk in the short term, the Indian economy has remained strong owing to robust policy measures in place. These give Indian businesses an advantage to make investment abroad and broaden their operational footprint in such nations. New innovations from abroad would be brought in to India with the help of knowledge spillover, and India itself would contribute to the growth of other nations. In this manner, a mutual benefit is achieved. In this regard, there have been several overseas investments made by foreign Indian companies. Some of the key overseas investments and developments that has taken place in the recent past are mentioned as follows. According to data released by the Reserve Bank of India (RBI), overseas direct investment stood at US dollars 1922.51 million, 1922.51 million in September 2022. The critical investments are as follows. So first, in June 2022, Tata Steel announced plans to invest 7 million pounds, that is USD 837.95 billion, for its Hartlepool tube mill in North East England. Second, Tata Communication invested US dollars 960 US million dollars in its wholly owned subsidiary in Singapore. Then we have Jindal Steel and Power invested $360 million in its wholly owned subsidiary in Mauritius. Wipro invested $204.96 million in its wholly owned subsidiary in Cyprus. Jindal SAW invested $64.5 million in its wholly owned subsidiary in UAE, United States Arab. Restaurant brand Asia and Lupin Limited invested US dollars 141.34 million and 131.22 million respectively in their JVs in Indonesia and US. Reliance New Energy invested 87.73 million in Norway. Mola Internet Private Limited invested 86 million in Mauritius. ONGC Videsh invested 83.31 million in a JV in joint venture in Russia. ICICI Bank's tie-up with Santander in Britain in a pact aimed at facilitating the banking requirement of corporates operational across both countries. ANI Technologies, the promoter of Ola, invested $675 million in its wholly owned subsidiary in Singapore. Dr. Reddy invested $149.99 million in JV in the US. A total of $168.9 million was invested by Reliance in New Energy in a joint venture and wholly owned subsidiary in Germany and Norway. GAIL India Energy PSU invested $70.17 million in a JV and a wholly owned unit in Myanmar and US. ONGC invested $74.15 million during the month in various countries in 5 different ventures. In July 2022, Reliance Brand Limited signed a distribution agreement with Maison Valentino, a Italian luxury fashion house, to open its first boutique in Delhi, followed by a flagship store in Mumbai. In July 2022, Reliance Retail Limited entered into a long-term partnership with Gap Inc. to bring the iconic American fashion brand Gap to India. In July 2022, the Tata Steel signed an MOU (Memorandum of Undertaking) with BHP, a leading global resource company, with the intention to jointly study and explore lower carbon iron and steel making technology. In Jan 2022, Ola Electric, the ride-hailing company's EV electric vehicle subsidiary, announced its plan to establish a Ola Future Foundry, a global hub for advanced engineering and vehicle design in the UK, investing 100 million US dollars over the next 5 years. In Jan, SR Group of India announced that it has created a JV joint venture with Progressive Energy of the UK to invest 1.34 billion rupees in a hydrogen manufacturing plant as its Ishore Stanlow refinery complex. In Jan, Hindalco Limited, US subsidiary Nobilis announced its plan to invest US dollar 365 million in a state-of-the-art vehicle recycling facility in the North America. So these are the few. If you have the habit of tracking news, you can find more such events, and this will help to know how the business is flowing, how our country is doing, how other countries are also doing. So that's it from this video. Thank you for watching. Keep learning, keep growing, and keep rocking. Bye bye.